That's a little bit closer. Yeah. That's what
And even if I raise my voice?
Yeah, you raise it with time. Yeah.
Maybe just you don't want to upset it. Or maybe you could do it afterwards.
Yeah.
You know, just so that people can see the session.
I've already gone live on the yeah.
Because she's
Typically takes us with I'm in the gym every Friday. Living 1 degree.
Yeah. Boy child is in here. Emma's upstairs. Oh, I have none. Nothing happens.
Nothing happens. I know that.
And then everything happens.
And
Originally, before, through my whole life. Like I associate Judaism. Yeah, she gave up. I feel like she gave up a couple of years ago. The first time when I was down here at UCT, the first time, and then I think I went back on. And then gave them up.
she was being a little.
Yeah.
I don't know where everyone wants to be, but
No, I think where you are is No, I think this whole area is It's nice also that everyone is relaxed and
I'm really terrified. She phoned me at 9:30 the night before I flew to Zimbabwe the next morning, having switched off these and locked things up, everything dismantled. She asked if she could come and stay at my house when I was away, and I just had to say no. The spare room was piled to the bloody. I mean, it was just like, you know, it was my storeroom. Everything was
Emma and then you.
Oh, and Emma.
Emma's going. We wanted you all to come here. Yeah? You got it. Where? Well, like George's wedding. No, we can do the family. So did I and George's.
Once again, you received the I thought you left very rapidly. Is that, yeah.
So you're going to sit behind Margaret.
On the last ride. They're there. I can't remember who was very late to arrive.
Probably Patrick.
No, you guys were.
He does, because Julia left her hair on before she did it. Can you go and check with the hair on?
But it wasn't us.
No, I can't remember who it was. Somebody who was almost late to you, I'm not quite sure. It's quite funny, like, I was cracking jokes about the fact that, I did sort of,
My own family of the last.
I'm hoping that she turns up. And they're like, your wife? I said, no, my mother. You've got custard cream for all of your faces.
What?
Did you ring me in the
I mean, I didn't know when you were going. Where?
Sorry, doctor. You know what happens. He says, oh, this is the
Welcome everyone. Please, those of you standing, there are empty seats, so please make your way forward if you would like to. Welcome family, friends and family online, friends who are like family. On behalf of Mike, most of you know as Jumbi, myself and Liv, Alex, most of you know Jules called Nun, Craig and our owner, we would like to welcome you warmly to the celebration of an extraordinary life of our Jules, Mum. Jules' brother Dougal and his wife Margaret have graciously opened their home, fondly known as the Mac Shack, not much of a shack, guys, as you can see, to us this afternoon to celebrate Jules as she spends so many wonderful afternoons and times here. Looking out at all of you, and I know that there are many online who could not make it across, it is a huge testimony to the amazing woman we knew. Jules, I know your cup is overflowing. When we first met, I had no idea how important you would be to me. Frighteningly similar we were in many ways. What's that saying, Mikey? Marry your mom. We were strong-willed and passionate about our family. Family was our world. Oddly though, we never fought, and for that, I adored her. We had such respect for each other's roles and stayed out of each other's way. In your last week, we had many conversations. I spoke and you listened, but then you are the world's best listener. I know you got a massive kick out of when I proudly proclaimed to the whole of the ICU, quite loudly because we all knew you were slightly hard of hearing, Jules, today's update date is Portugal won the World Cup. Jumbi burst out laughing, and my wife still doesn't follow sport, Jules. But we also had our own chats, just you and I. I made you a promise, and I asked you a favor. I promised you I would take Latin over and look after and keep the unit together. That I had Mikey and Nun, Craig and your grandies. They will know you. They will continue to love you as fiercely as we do. Lastly, I whispered for you to keep our rainbow baby on your chest until we're all together again. So to the final guest, the guest of honor, welcome Jules to your celebration.
Thank you, everyone, for being here, and thank you for observing the brief, which was to come colorfully dressed. Wonderful colors that we're looking at here. I forgot, and I wore black. I can remember meeting Jules on the ward at St. Luke's. For 17 years, I was the spiritual care coordinator there, working with an interfaith team. And, she was very committed to that work and very involved. And we would have conversations sometimes quietly in the passage outside the patients' rooms, and at times in the reception area. And we would philosophize, as one does in a situation like that, about death, dying, and what our own feelings and thoughts about that would be for ourselves. And she was unafraid to actually look at those realities. So in a sense, it seems a little bit surreal that she was to go before me and that I'm actually facilitating this service. It was my privilege also to be at your nuptials, and another aspect of Jules is her generosity. Besides paying my fee to get my fare or my petrol to get to there, she insisted that I come with my wife and we stay over in the series. So, that's typical, I think, of Jules's nature. And she was determined to make it a really wonderful celebration, which indeed it was. So what we do at a memorial service really is to actually bank the memories. So it's an important ritual where we say goodbye and where we say farewell. And our hearts are heavy because our emotions are quite complex at a time like this. And some of us might get tearful and some of us might wonder and actually not pay too much attention to the proceedings because our thoughts go elsewhere. But we're doing this as a community and as a fellowship around the people who loved and knew Jules. So the resonances of those memories we hold to, we reflect on the essence of Jules, and that's what we'll be doing in this context. And my task really is just to commend her to God and to acknowledge that her legacy continues to live here in her family, and that the service needs to be an affirmation of life, love, and gratitude. As the material drops in the sense of the physical body and the spiritual ascends. So we're in that in-between place of holding on to what really makes sense of life, which is our transactions in love and our connection to each other. I want to just focus on a few sentences which I've randomly selected, because whenever we come to a memorial or a funeral, we are reminded that we are mortal beings and we have a lifespan that's limited here on earth. So the way we get our head around this mystery of death is really our own individual assignment. And there's no case of one size fits all. It's a unique journey that is as unique as the fingerprints on our hands and the nature of our birth. But our death is a mystery that's hidden from us, hidden from our sight. Henry van Dyke said there is only one way to get ready for immortality, and that is to live this life and to live it as bravely and faithfully and as cheerfully as we can. And then Arnold Toynbee, ideally every human being ought to live each passing moment as if the next moment were going to be his last. He ought to be able to live in the constant expectation of immediate death, and to live like this not morbidly, but serenely. The closer that a human being can come to attaining this ideal state of mind, the better and happier he or she will be. And then from Scripture, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about its own things. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. Matthew 6. And then a lovely passage in the Psalms, the prayer book in the Bible. Those who sow in tears shall reap in joy. So it's only as we scour the depths of our sadness, that in the darkness of our sadness, that we catch the glimmer of the light. I find myself working as a grief counselor, and some people actually stay in that darkness because they live a substandard life in the impact of their griefs, and they don't quite find that hope and commitment to a new future because their attachment to what they were connected to, is too powerful and they cannot let go. So what this service does in a way is it offers us a threshold of actually saying thank you and asking for the grace to be able to let go, where the memories do not diminish, but where the attachment is able to be released. So we listen here to Bertrand Russell. The root of the matter is simple and old-fashioned. A thing so simple I'm almost ashamed to mention it for fear of the derisive smile with which the cynics will greet my words. The thing I mean, please forgive me for mentioning it, is love or compassion. If you feel this, you have a motive for existence, a reason for courage, a guide in action, an imperative necessity for intellectual honesty. If you feel this, you have all that anybody should need in the way of religion. Mark Twain, two most important days are when we are born and when we discover why. And then C.F. Mayer, it is time to celebrate. Now comes the great peace, the great rest. There flies a line of herons, eternally seeking spring. They know their path, they know their way. What, O my soul, have you to fear? And then finally, just to help us in some kind of a meditation, the lovely words of John O'Donoghue on the death of a beloved. Though we need to weep your loss, you dwell in that safe place in our hearts, where no storm or night or pain can reach you. Your love was like the dawn brightening over our lives, awakening beneath the dark, a further adventure of color. The sound of your voice found for us a new music that brightened everything. Whatever you enfolded in your gaze quickened into the joy of its being. You placed smiles like flowers on the altar of the heart. Your mind always sparkled with wonder of things. Though your days here were brief, your spirit was alive, awake, complete. We looked towards each other no longer from the old distance of our names. Now you dwell inside the rhythm of breath, as close to us as we are to ourselves. Though we cannot see you with our outward eyes, we know our soul's gaze is upon your face, smiling back at us from within everything to which we bring our best refinement. Let us not look for you only in memory, where we would grow lonely without you. You would want us to find you in presence, besides us when beauty brightens, when kindness glows, when music echoes eternal tones, when orchids brighten the earth and the darkest winter has turned to spring, may this dark grief flower with hope in every heart that loves you. May you continue to inspire us to enter each day with a generous heart, to serve the call of courage and love until we see your beautiful face again. In that land where there is no more separation, where all tears will be wiped from our mind, and where we will never lose you again. That poem or extract reads and speaks so powerfully of presence. And I think if we can access presence in the face of all the uncertainties and the absences, we have a hope for tomorrow. I always felt with Julia that when I engaged her, she was undistracted and focused and made me feel not invisible. There are some people that make me feel invisible because they're preoccupied with other things. You know, they just don't see you. But with Julia, I always had the sense she sees me. And she kind of soulfully knows what's going on inside, even though I haven't told her. So I think I just want to acknowledge that gift. I mean, I don't know whether as children she had that capacity for you, but she did for me. It might have been different. So thank you. We're going to have a reading now.
I just want to say a few words. I can't help it. Julia has been my friend for 57 years. I am shattered. But what I did, I went through all my photographs and I chose photographs of the memories I had of Julia from our nursing days. She was my bridesmaid. We had the most amazing time at Fiskart. I can go on forever, but my little collage does tell a story. It was a privilege for me to spend a couple of months with Julia before she died. No, before I died, before I went overseas. I went to the UK for 6 months, and during that time she passed away. But we spoke just about every day. And the memories I had and shared with Julia lying on her bed are very precious. I will always remember. We talked about dying. We talked about love. We talked about our children. And we talked about how we were going to die and how we felt about dying. So Julia's soul was ready. She really was. She really was ready to go. And we talked about who's going first. And I said, and Jules, you put me to the post. But I'm here now, and I'm going to do the song for you, Jules. This is for you, and thank you. I will never forget you. Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen.
Thank you, Lynn, for that very heartfelt sharing. Thank you. What I want to do is just to direct a few thoughts in remembrance. I was looking at a passage in Ecclesiasticus. Do not winnow in every wind. Be steady in your convictions and sincere in your speech. Be quick to listen and deliberate in giving an answer. If you understand the matter, give your neighbor an answer. If not, put your hand over your mouth. Both honor and disgrace come from talking. A man's tongue can be his downfall. Avoid offenses in great as in small matters, and do not become an enemy when you should stay a friend. Do not give in to the promptings of your temper, and in case it gobbles up and leaves you and you lose your fruits. and are left like a withered tree. Let your acquaintances be many, but your advisors 1 in 1,000. I think as we age, we realize that in our circle of acquaintances, there are very few that we can really count as true friends. So you were clearly in that category, and we waited for you so that you could actually be honored and recognized. On a plaque in St. Ulrich in Gretna Valley, radiant days do not weep that they are gone, but smile that they have been. Viktor Frankl, who is a psychiatrist who I study in terms of working in the face of death and the challenges it presents in terms of people finding meaning, and his logotherapy that he developed a long time ago now, from the fires and the awfulness of the concentration camps, has become a methodology that many psychiatrists and psychologists use in sort of cognitive-based therapy. And he wrote, "No power on earth can take away what we have experienced." In his 80s, he wasn't able to climb the mountains, and it was something he loved to do. And then he wrote, "In the past, nothing is irretrievably and irrevocably lost, but everything is permanently stored. Usually people see only the stubble field of transitoriness. They do not see the full granaries into which they have brought the harvest of their lives, the deeds done, the work created, the loves loved, the sufferings courageously gone through." So when we stand at the threshold of death, and Julia wasn't afraid to do that. I mean, if you work in a hospice, that's part of the curriculum, really. You've got to actually deal with those realities. Birth we usually welcome with joy, but death brings us to a place of sadness, loss, and grief. Death reminds us that we have no permanent home here, and they are companions, life and death, connected by an open doorway. In my discussions and understandings with people, death for some is actually an experience and a journey that is totally settled. The accounts are settled. There's no fear about it. Others are fearful. Death is being with God in heaven for some. Death is an invisible force for others. Death is a time of judgment for others. Death is only seen by some as non-living, the ultimate existential experience. Death is the elevation to another life, without the consequences of human frailty, hostility, and materialistic values. I like that one. Death is a rebirth. It is, after all, no more surprising to be born twice than to be born once. So whatever our philosophy, and I think we do this search for meaning, if we're honest, and in my work as a counselor, processing people's uncertainties, people's pain, and the commitment to constant work. So in a sense, it's like we are caught up in a sense that we're living some kind of controlled hallucination. And the reality of life is that, as Thomas Hobbes said a long time ago, life is solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. And somehow the reality of death just kind of kicks that in, because it is such a stealer of joy. And it's a marker of the fact that things will change. So what helps us today is to actually bank the memories, the things that actually connect us to those things that are timeless and go past the limitations of what our physical existence is. And no more do we have to be reminded of the limitations of our existence, to the fact that we are currently in load shedding. We've just come through a pandemic, which still seems to be lingering. And, you know, the whole political situation in our country is precarious. I mean, we can go on. We're probably on the edge of a recession. So there is so much to make us depressed and down and downhearted and fearful. But the challenge of death is, how do we live with purpose, with meaning, and with a sense of hope? And how do we challenge ourselves to wake up in the morning and find joy? Joy through the pain, to find the beauty through that which oppresses. And I think if we're able to, I think Julia was busy with that. She wanted to turn that key. She wanted to find that truth. And sometimes we touch it and then it escapes from us, and then we have moments again of holding on to it. So death, we know in a sense, is a secret teaching, in that sense, waiting and hidden sight. It interrupts the cycles and patterns of predictability and familiarity. It it throws us back on ourselves in a way that we have to be true to what we know ourselves to be. And the fact that we die is an inevitable consequence of being alive. So what we do this afternoon is to bank the essences, the images of the person who has died, which have already been captured in some of the things that have been shared. Yet for Julia, there were probably hidden understandings, undeclared thoughts in her own subconscious. And those die with us as well. And so in our commending her to God, we trust that in God's mercy and grace, indeed there will be rest for her soul. Because as we go through this valley of the shadow of death, there is so much to disturb our peace. And so my prayer and trust for all of you is that the mantras of gratitude, forgiveness, and love will secure for you the visa that you need to that secret place beyond the realm that we live in. Thank you.
Sorry, I've inherited Mum's poor eyesight. Jules, Mum, Gogo. Standing here right now is so surreal. There's something that simply doesn't seem right. You've been waiting all your life to be a Gogo. Finally, that reality becomes, and you're gone. Time with the two apples of your eye cut short. It just doesn't seem right. Mum, you were a lady who wore her emotions on her sleeve. You would never shy away from telling us how it was, or at least how you saw it. Not to mention your way was the only way. More than that, it was your compassion, your generosity, your loyalty, your kind heart, and your wicked sense of humor that had the ability to attract so many wonderful people into your life. From your early days with Lynn working as a nurse, to owning a Marchi clothing store in the Brio Cell, to caring for the elderly overseas, and to working at hospice, as Peter says, giving of your time to those in their darkest hour with such commitment, grace, and humility. You were our harshest critic, but more importantly, our confidant and biggest supporter. In many ways, I wish heaven had visiting hours. I'd love to pop by for just one more coffee. In your world, family came first, as Shell said. That was a non-negotiable. You were the glue that held everyone together, the core. Your brothers, sisters-in-law, cousins, nieces, nephews, children, stepchildren, grandchildren, and your 5 godchildren. You were the family sounding board when we needed an ear, a little safe space in this modern world where we wouldn't feel judged. You kept us all together, no matter where in the world we were. Distance never stopped you from communicating, even though by your own admission, you were technically challenged. You encouraged family get-togethers and loved nothing more than a family Christmas Eve dinner. That was simply your best. Thank goodness at least one of your kids has remembered the gammon recipe. Oh, and who can forget your ability to keep a confidence? Many a person in this very room have confided in you, and I have no doubt those private matters or secrets that were shared took their last breath when you took yours. Alex and I, more recently Shelley, Craig, Olivia, and Iona were your world. We knew that, we loved that, and we appreciated you. The mother you were was the very best kind. Compassionate, loving, realistic, generous to a fault, non-judgmental, hardworking, supportive, and caring. A single mum for a long time, and what a job you did. You always welcomed and treated your 3 stepchildren, Shirley, Wayne, and Joe, with open arms, as though they were your own. The pride you showed when any of your kids achieved a milestone of sorts was just incredible. I'll never forget the look on your face the day Shells and I got married, and the day you met your grandchildren for the first time. That will stay with me forever. Knowing you had our back was so comforting. We hope you felt the same level of comfort knowing we had yours. Your friends were so incredibly important to you, always checking in on them, making sure they were okay. If they weren't, you always had a unique way of making them feel better. You listened without judgment. You helped without conditions. You understood and cared no matter what. Their happiness was your happiness. Who can ever forget your love for the Seattle coffee freezers The daily escape from the Cape summer heat. Many of you at some point or other would have passed Mum sitting at Seattle in Cavendish, more than often than not between the two movies that she would watch for the day, or partaking in her favourite pastime of people watching. Over the last 11 years, your delightful yet slightly crazy dogs, Cody and Teddy, became so much a part of you and your life. You loved them like no other. They were so lucky to have you. But it was the simple things in life that made you most happy, Mum. Your flowers flowering in your beautiful garden, planting ones that would bloom every year, the same month your granddaughters were born, watching your birds eating from your bird feeder, your granddaughters in the pool or swinging in your arch, sitting on your lap or feet on the couch binging on a Netflix series. Who could forget the word searches? Those little books were never far from your grasp. I was laughing at a few of Donald's stories, which he very kindly, and Donald is Mum's little brother who can't make it today. He sent a few stories out from the States and asked me to recall a few of them. And I'm going to do this in Donald's words. He said, I remember at Gogo's wake, Father Collingwood, who knew our grandparents and all the listers, telling us a story about visiting our grandparents one day when we were there on holiday and finding us kids outside the kitchen, Julia up against the wooden door, and Dougal and I throwing knives at her. I think we were primed for adventure. It was Dougal's idea, of course. However, I was caught holding the knife. Bless me, Father, he finishes. Donald continues. He said also that night, Corley Boy, Jules' younger brother, affectionately known that way by his siblings, performed pirouettes dressed in nurses' uniforms. He called his act Hospice for the Blind. It was an act of kindness I'll never forget. Other loves included popping up here to the Mac Shack, generally on a Sunday RV, for an early dinner to listen to Dukes strumming away on his guitar and singing along to, amongst others, Losing My Religion by R.E.M. A weekend away up at the farm, walking amongst the orchards and lately the vines, picking apples and nectarines. Fiskart weekends, lounging in a tube, drinking a G&T in the rather fresh water. In most of our world, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Well, not in yours, it was a glass of champers a day. In the words of many seated here today, you were dignified, you were loyal, you were vibrant and colourful personality, the favourite cousin. You were an inspiration and a role model, a beautiful light, one of the greats. You are to be adored, remembered, and celebrated. You were awesome. You were admired for your insightful intelligence and delightful sense of humor, your wise counsel, and your deep devotion and delight in your family. You were a formidable woman, a strong and independent lady, and a glam gran. How well your friends and family knew you. Celebrating our most recent and last Christmas together on the 17th of December, as Charles, myself, and Liv were due to be away, was a day we will never forget and will live in the memory bank forever. Alex, Craig, and Iona joined us. You had your grandchildren on and off your lap all day. Lots of laughs, cuddles, smiles, giggles, and the odd dirty nappy. It was an incredibly happy day. I'll never ever forget that last hug. It was different. It was forever. You left us with a cup so full, no doubt it was overflowing. For this memory, we will be forever grateful. Rest in peace, Mum, till we meet again. I love you.
Yes, I think a please applause.
Yeah.
Jumbi alluded to the other one from Donald, which he's made the point he did not write, obviously not wishing to show his wife up at all. He's chosen one from somewhere else, and I will read that one now. It speaks to the familial ties that was spoken of earlier on. The knowing that binds us is older than the apostrophe of cell that we formed within one womb. All that flowed into us there, from the red village of ancestry, sowed spores continuity that would one day flower flickers of resemblance. Unconscious gesture would echo an ancestor, and the look of us stir recognition of belonging that is ours alone. And our difference finding its own rhythm and strangeness, leading us deeper into self that would always know its own, regardless of difficulty and distance. And through hurt that no other could inflict, still somehow beside each other, through the night, though the night is dark, the wind that loves to clean the bones of ruins, to make further room for life.
So if I can just mention the music piece that's going to be played now is a song that Mum really, really likes. In fact, so much so she kind of dedicated it to two grandchildren. And if you listen to the words, I think you'll understand why.
Little hands, the world is yours. Hold it close with open arms. Little feet with miles ahead. Take it slow, see it all. Take it. I see me in you, you in me. I see me in you, you in me. I see it in your eyes. I see it in your eyes. Little heart, dancing it out. So the ins and outs won't bring you down. Little dream, grow up tall. With a little rain, a little sun, you'll feel love. I see me in you, you and me. I see me in you, you and me. I see it in your eyes. I see it in your eyes. Little heaven, the world is yours. Hold it close with open arms. Little hands.
I'm not gonna sing, unfortunately. So, come on, say that for later tonight. Or project the voice, I can't do that. I didn't realize there were going to be so many people here today. Very heartwarming to see. How do I find the words to talk about the most important woman in my life? To talk about what a difference she made, or how her voice, advice, and wisdom lifted my spirits and gave me the courage to keep following my dreams, to find my voice, to be my own person, and who has set an example of the type of mother I want to be. How do I find the words to thank her for the sacrifices she made? The ones I know about and the ones I don't. How do I find the words that will accurately depict the kind, caring, loyal, generous, loving, strong, courageous, brave, elegant woman Mom was? This past year has taught me so much about Mom and her character,
Her strength, determination, and courage in the face of the toughest fight of her life was more than admirable. Throughout her journey, Jules never complained. Even at her lowest, she was the epitome of dignity, grace, and elegance. True to form, Mom was more worried about the rest of us and how we were instead of herself, even in her darkest days. She was completely and utterly selfless. A stronger person would be hard to find. Thank you, Mom, for your love, support, morals, and the values you instilled in me. Thank you for teaching me to never doubt who I am. Thank you, Mom, for being my mom, my role model, and most of all, my friend. And thank you for teaching me not to live my life trying to please everyone. The legacy you have left us, your values, our memories with you, your friendship and love is one we will hold on tight to, and something we promise to hand on to your precious grandchildren. It saddens me to think that Olivia and Iona won't know you while growing up and won't have any memories of you. But I promise to continue telling them about you and how much Gogo loved them and what complete and utter joy they brought you. Your spirit lives on in them. Thank you for everything you did for us. All that I am or hope to be, I owe to you. Toodaloo, Mom. Until we meet again, rest peacefully and keep talking to me. I promise I'm listening.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to miss Julia Margaret Ric-Hansen, Jules, Julia, sister, Gogo, mom, aunt, friend, wombat, and all the other names and titles by which she is fondly known. I'm limited in time and will never be able to cover the entire gamut of memories, emotions, and the true essence of Julia, but I'll give it a go. Firstly, Michael and Alex, your words were amazing, absolutely amazing. Julia was more than my sister. She was my sounding board, my confidant, my one constant, who was by my side through thick and thin. Quite simply, she got me. Remarkable as I still haven't got me. With my various brushes with mortality, the one person who was always there was Julia. Whatever my ailment, Julia was there throughout. One would have expected that she would outlive me by a country mile, yet it was not to be. As Dougal put it, who's going to look after us now? Jules, poor soul, grew up with two brothers, Dougal and Donald. I can say that as in a classic bit of Catholic family planning. I only joined the family in the 12th year of Julia's life. I always had unconditional love from Julia. She was a nurturing, caring figure who was always there to protect and shield me. In many ways, I think that I was Julia's first child. Sorry. She always kept an eye on me, looking after me, nurtured and cared for me. It was in those early years of my life that the bond between us was forged, and barring a few hiccups, younger brothers are twats sometimes, that bond endured to the end. By the time I'd finished school, Julia had relocated to Durban, married Michael Ric-Hansen, and was starting a new family. I was at this stage of my life perfecting the art of the twat, much to my father's horror, who had preferred my trajectory to ultimately end with an appointment to the board of Anglo-American. I thought that was a social club in London. It has to be said I was off the charts, ADDHD. I think I possibly still am. And it must have frustrated the hell out of the chairman. So we would clash and I would seek refuge with Julia and spend time with her in Verulam and Kloof. This is when I really got to know and understand Julia. We had extended times together, we shared stories of growing up, and I got to know her on another level. My sister first and foremost, but also as a wife, mother, and friend. As dear Gogo, our mum, got older, Julia stepped in and moved her to Durban to live with her. She was loved and cared for. She was part of a young, vibrant, slightly crazy family. In a way, I always felt that Julia compromised her own life, the opportunities presented to look after Gogo. She was her carer, was with her at all times, and showered her with love. I loved and missed my mum terribly. Love and miss my mum terribly. But if the honest truth be told, I would have never been able to take on the role that Julia did. Remember, she had a working husband, 2 young children, as well as loads of family and friends in her circle. The thing is, that is exactly who Julia was. So little time for herself. She never put herself first, ever. She was the sounding boards to friends and family, and if she loved with all her. She took it all on. In today's world, position in society is too often measured by professional or social standards. Julia didn't give a shit about that. What mattered to Julia was family, friends, and of course her children and beloved grandchildren, and of course her pets. Those came first, and she made no bones about it. She was a beautiful, loving, nurturing soul who lived a life of integrity, who always gave before she received, and will be remembered as someone who added to the lives of those present today and the life of so many others. Fiercely loyal, but she could also be fierce if she felt slighted. We all got that from time to time. Not quite the hairdryer treatment, but if you got it from Jules, you certainly knew about it. When I was at school, she was affectionately known as the Wombat. Why exactly, I can't recall. So I did some research. A group of wombats is known as a wisdom. That might be why. Wombats are generally quiet animals, but they fiercely defend home territories and they react super aggressively to intruders. Their primary defense is their toughened rear hide. Michael and Alexandra. To Michael and Alex is off on mother's duty. Your mother was a force of nature, not to mention nurture. She truly loved you with all her heart and more. She was so proud of you and more recently Olivia and Iona. You and your families were all her reason for living. She was such a major part of your life, and life without her will certainly be very difficult. But the pain will subside, and in time you will truly be able to celebrate. Shelley and Craig, Julia loved you as her own and you gave her so much happiness and content. You are both remarkable people, and we're also grateful to you for having loved and cared for her as you did. To Olivia and Iona, quite simply, you completed the circle of life for Julia. I spent a few hours with Jules before her turn, and I've never seen her look so beautiful, happy, and complete. This was the reality that she had imagined and wished for. It was her crowning glory. Life was now complete. She had a family Christmas dinner with Mike, Alex, Shelley, Craig, and the grandkids. The Christmas tree was up, dinner was prepared, and she was so excited to be with her little tribe. That's how I will remember Julia, welcoming, brimming with love, and at peace with who she was. A remarkable mother, grandmother, sibling, and friend. In closing, I'd like to share a poem, but firstly, apologies to Robert Burns for the switching of genders. An honest woman now lies at rest, as yet God with her image blessed. A friend of man, the friend of truth, the friend of age and guide of youth. Few hearts like hers with virtue warmed, few heads with knowledge so informed. If there's another world, she lives in bliss. If there's none, she made the best of this. Thank you.
Yeah, if I can just say to Shelley and outstanding eulogies, really fantastic. I mean, she would have been so happy. One thing that you mentioned there was a wicked sense of humor, and I've been sitting here looking at her, and here she's in her Serenissimo pose, the most serene, but you can see her teeth going, get me out of here. But in 1973, Julia went to Italy to the University of Perugia to do an Italian course. And I know it was 1973 because that was the year that Funny Bravo topped the charts with Pazzi Day, Crazy Idea, which Julia absolutely loved. And so she went to Perugia and she did this course, and she must have done well because on the weekends she would go to Parma where I played rugby. I wasn't there at the time. And she met up with my friends, and before I knew it, my friends were more her friends than were my friends. And and none of them, English was still a foreign language then, and nobody could speak any English. So Italian must have been good enough because there were two types of English at that time. There was the American gangster English, like, I'll go to a restaurant, mangiare spaghetti, Julia, yeah, that type of thing. And I remember sometime afterwards, one of my Carla Quintaballa, who was her great friend, who unfortunately died 5 or 6 months ago, she told me how Julia would always get the word sensitivo wrong. Okay, sensitivo sounds like sensitive. So Julia would be talking about sensitive, and she would use the word sensitivo, which is not actually right. It's sensibile. Okay. And so Carla would tell me the story, and sensibile and sensitive is not a word that we sort of grew up with in our household. But I can imagine Julia having these, with all these bloody Italians having these emotional discussions. And she flourished sensitivo with what she got it wrong because it was so. But the Italians, those words, the vocabulary. We heard the word just now, non-judgmental, and unconditional, and emotional spontaneity. Those are all words which entered our vocabulary not too long ago. Whereas they were ingrained in the Italians. That's what just they like. That's what beguiles us. What just reduces us is that contact with those people that just have that natural, warm sensitivity and above all tolerance of your emotional idiosyncrasies. These were the years before Julia lost her filter. So, so I really think that actually some of her happiest times, really deeply happiest times, were moments which none of us ever witnessed, was with those Italian friends, where she felt really happy and emotionally spontaneous and just loved and adored, sensitivo. And funny enough, with Julia and Italy, I associate her with music, Patti Bravo, and Carla Quintaballa. Her kids are Roberto and Stefano, are ciao ragazzi, siamo qui, are watching on the Zoom now. So Carla took her to the Teatro Regio, which is the opera house in Parma, where Giuseppe Verdi came on the scene, etc. And Carla couldn't speak. She could say, wonderful, beautiful. And I can imagine Julia saying, stupenda, bellissima, this whole thing going. So she loved those Italian music, Gabriele Ferri, Loredana Bertè, Petit Bravo, Mornella Belloni, Nina, all those ones. And when she came up here, I would have to sing a couple of Italian songs for her, you know. And she would sit there and listen and like it. So I'm not very good, okay, but I was good enough for Julia, which is all that really matters, you know. And this was her favorite song. Maybe I'm going to sit on here, Craig. This was her favorite song, which was written by a chap called. No, don't worry. Which was a song by Lucia Dalla, and it's called Caruso. Okay. Qui dove luccichi il mare e tira forti il vento, su una vecchia terrazza al golfo di Sorrento, un uomo, un ragazzo, una ragazza, dopo che aveva pianta, e poi si schiarisce le voci e comincia a cantare. Te voglio bene assai, ma tanto bene assai, e un cateno ormai che scioglie il sangue nel te vene. That's it, Julia. Bravo indeed.
Just catching on the end of something of what Dougal shared and also called, what I forgot to say in my original words is that Oliver Sacks is a neurologist and a Jewish atheist who's written quite, you know, the book I Mistook My Wife for a Hat. And also he wrote a book called Gratitude. And in this, he was looking at his own death. He actually was 80 years of age when he died. And one of his ways of reflecting on death was to look at the periodic table, the chemical periodic table, and to look at the qualities of the numbers. So I looked up Julia. She was 74, I think. Is that right? Yeah. So 74, incidentally, is tungsten. It's a rare metal, and there are few materials that substitute for it. It's known for its heat resistance, its denseness, and it's used in wear-resistant material. So there we go. There we go.
In other words, it's a cup of hell.
Please would you stand for the words of the committee. The most beautiful things in life are not things. They're people, places, memories, and pictures. They're feelings and moments, and smiles, and laughter. The Lord gives, and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Early or late, we all answer the summons to return to the reservoir of being. For we loose our hold on life when our time has come, as the leaf falls from the bough when its day is done. The deeds of the righteous enrich the world, and the fallen leaf enriches the soil beneath. The dust returns to the earth. The spirit lives on with God. Like the stars by day, our beloved dead are not seen by mortal eyes. Yet they shine on forever. Theirs is eternal peace. Let us be thankful for the companionship that continues in a love stronger than death. Sanctifying the name of God, we do honor their memory. The dead are not distant or absent. They're alongside us. When we lose someone to death, we lose their physical image and presence. They slip out of visible form into invisible presence. This alteration of form is the reason we cannot see the dead. But because we cannot see them does not mean that they are not here. Transfigured into eternal form, the dead cannot reverse the journey and even for 1 second re-enter their old form to linger with us a while. Though they cannot reappear, they continue to be near us, and part of the healing of grief is the refinement of our hearts, whereby we come to sense their loving nearness. When we ourselves enter the eternal world and come to see our lives on earth in full view, we may be surprised at the immense assistance and support with which our departed loved ones have accompanied every moment of our lives. In their new transfigured presence, their compassion, understanding, and love take on divine depth, enabling them to become secret angels, guiding and sheltering the unfolding of our own destiny. We commend now Julia Margaret Ric-Hansen, beloved and greatly loved and now greatly missed, to her Creator and the guardian of her soul, on her journey to that beach of stars, earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. And we entrust her to God's merciful protection. Our memories here hold all that will always make her alive for us. Julia, in your leaving, we welcome the new beginnings for ourselves. And we trust for you the possibility of what is eternal and infinite. Go now from us in our love, in our gratitude, and in the transcendent peace of God. Amen. Into the freedom of the wind and sunshine, we let you go, Julia. Into the dance of the stars and the planets, we let you go. Into the wind's breath and the hands of the star maker, we let you go. We love you. We miss you. We want you to be happy. Go safely. Go dancing. Go. Amen. Please be seated.
As a family, we'd like to extend our gratitude and thanks to everyone who has called, messaged. We're grateful for friends and family like you during this time of sorrow. And just taking a look at everyone here today, it goes to show. To everyone here today, thank you for making time in your busy schedules to celebrate the life of Jules. We are especially appreciative to those of you who have traveled here today. Marika, Patrick, Shirley, Deb, Wayne, Benji, coming down from Durban. Denai, George, and the rest of the Lambert Porter clan, and to my mom, Lol, from Johannesburg. It means the world to Alex and Mike to have you here, and no doubt Julia. To everyone who wanted to be here but couldn't be here in person today, but has joined back virtually, thank you. We appreciate you taking the time and hope that you will have a drink wherever you are in the world in Jules' honor later today. Aristide, thank you for making the celebration of life available virtually for all those watching from afar. Marika, Patrick, Denai, and George, thank you for being a great friend to Jules. She spoke fondly of your friendship, and it's something that she treasured. Thank you to Chef Ollie and your team for today's spread. It looks magnificent. Jules was a massive fan of your sauces and condiments, and they created many memories by bringing us together as a family around a table. Dougal and Margaret, a massive thank you. A massive thank you for opening up your home, your beautiful home today, so that we can all celebrate the wonderful life of Julia. It is appreciated beyond words. You were both constantly there for Jules over the last 12 months during her medical journey, regularly checking in, providing meals and company. She appreciated your time and generosity. Paul and Judy, thank you for your continued support. Paul, I cannot tell you how happy Jules was that she saw you on the Saturday before she fell ill. You got her Christmas tree lights shining for a Christmas with her 2 grandchildren, a small deed that meant so much to her. Thank you. Caroline, wow. You played a massive role in Gogo's life, and we are thankful
for everything that you did for her over the years. Shelley, thank you for your continued support of life during this time and for all your help behind the scenes in making today's success. Peter, thank you for everything that you've done through this whole process. It's greatly appreciated from all of us. Kerry, a massive thank you to you and your team. You continually went out of your way to help out with Cody and Teddy without a fuss. Whether it was picking up the boys when Jules was in hospital, keeping them for longer than scheduled, or grabbing a bag of food when needed. You did it without question and continually took the worry and pressure of Jules. Thank you. Thank you to Greg Natson and John LaRue and the team from Personal Trust for all your support throughout the years and especially during this time. The last year has been a medical journey, and special thanks must go to the various medical practitioners who did everything in their power to ensure Jules got the most time with her family and her 2 grandchildren. Special mentions to her oncologist, Lisa Dalmeyer, and then Dr. Heidi Hart, her hematologist, Dr. Gerard Sisolak, all the sisters and nurses who took great care of Jules during her chemo and radiation sessions. She became very fond of you all. Thank you for your commitment to her cause. Dr. Robert Smith, there are no words and thank you does not suffice. You did everything you could to give Jules more time with us. Thank you for your honesty, commitment, and dedication. You went beyond the call of duty, and we as a family are eternally grateful to you. The ER team and the medical ICU staff at Vincent Pallotti, who never left her side in the final days. The world needs more people like you. Thank you again. And lastly, Julia, Jules, that woman, Gogo, thank you for everything. The amount of people here and around the world today who celebrate your life is a testament to the strong, ever-learning, loving, and caring person you are. You had a love for life and its natural beauty. Your appreciation for love and the simple things in life, like your garden and the birds that visited it, were constant reminders to all of us to take a moment and enjoy the blessings of life. Your family and the boys were your most prized possession, who you loved fiercely. Your biggest love was your grandchildren, Olivia and Iona. I remember when Iona was born, you were the first in the queue every day at the hospital to see her. And you only left when security asked you to. You always said that they were your greatest gift, and I'm sorry you didn't get more time with them. I'm going to miss our outings to barristers and learning Italian with you over a bottle of wine late into the evening. Everyone here will have fond memories of you, and if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be here today, celebrating the remarkable person that you were. And on that note, inside on the table there is a pink book. Please, would you all take a moment of your time today to write down a special memory that you had of Jules. It's just so that we can allow the grandchildren to remember her and for us to remember her. And then just lastly, the family would love for you to join for a glass of bubbles or a G&T at the back and to celebrate the life of Jules. But before I do that, Cassidy wrote a beautiful poem, which I'm just going to read. She partied in Perugia, past DC to San Fran, the kibitz, she said, her favorite. All this before Verulam. From nursing to Irish caring, the Drakensberg sent her marrying to Kloof, then Selborne Road. But at Tuscan 70th, I'm telling you, to gathered us happily in her hold. This is the thing. Julia always knew how Paul or Dougal or Donald was. She called, questioned, was concerned. Julia was the glue that kept the McDonald's one. She knew, and each nephew and niece grew with her love, just like her own, Jumbi and Noon, who brought her such joy. Olivia and Iona, Shelley and Craig. With her family complete, her nurturing done, Christmas fated, peace could come. To Julia, your love is with us yet. Thank you for everyone for being here. There are refreshments and there's food inside. There is a toilet if you go straight down to the bottom of the corridor. Thank you. Sorry. One last word.
It was written by Omar Khayyam. But it's quite relevant. So it goes, some we loved, the loveliest and best, that time and fate of all their vintage crest. They drank their cup a round or two before, and one by one crept silently to rest. And we that now make merry in the room they left, and summer dresses in new bloom, must we, ourselves beneath the couch of earth descend, ourselves to make a place for him.
Thank you.
Oh, you got no, not quite as big as it. Not that much. No, I think I'll give it to you. Got a suitcase.
It's a picture of elephants.
Yes, little natural. I like the picture of you. You like those pictures of you?
Yes. They're not responding.